to the Hawks Lounge, a podcast dedicated to storytelling, learning, and uplifting content creators. I am your host, Hawk. Before I continue, I just wanted to share a few things. The first thing is I haven't been uploading or sticking to my upload schedule, rather, because of some things in my personal life that I've just been dealing with lately. I have all the episodes planned out, I just haven't had the time to actually record and edit them. But with Thanksgiving this week, I decided it would be the best opportunity for me to upload and get these episodes out. The second thing I wanted to mention was what we discussed in the previous episode. I mentioned the importance of gratitude and learning how to appreciate what you have. I'm speaking from personal experience when I say this, but oftentimes it's easy to take something for granted because we can get so fixated on the things we don't have. Doing this often could make it difficult to appreciate all the qualities or things that you do have that others don't. As I also mentioned in the last episode, I was going to give thanks to a few individuals that I feel have helped me personally along my journey. First and foremost, before I give thanks to anyone else, I want to personally thank you for listening. I know I said this once, but I will continue to say it for as long as I have this podcast. I never thought that anyone would listen to a podcast that I hosted. I made it up in my mind when I first started that any episode I release will have at least one listen, because I would be that one person listening. I also created episodes that I would enjoy listening to, so with that being my mindset, I was prepared to crank out episode after episode with little to no listeners. But after seeing the support from friends, both old and new, and from family, I feel comforted knowing that there will be at least one more listen on each episode I release. And for the listeners that I don't know personally, it really means the world to me that you took time out of your day to stop and listen. I hope you enjoy every episode from now on, because I will continue to improve the quality of content as time goes on and as I gain more skills. So for all the listeners, yes you, I thank you from the crevices of my heart, because you don't have to listen to me speak into a mic about this, that, or the other. I thank you for your valuable time and hope that you continue to spend time with me on this journey. I also want to thank my friends for their contribution to the podcast, no matter how small it may have been. Let me tell you a quick story about the conception of this podcast. Last year, around April 2020, peak quarantine lockdown, I had a friend from high school that posted this one question on his Instagram story. The question was, what do you want to do in your lifetime? Now, I'm not typically the type of person to respond to these questions on social media, but that day, I was feeling inspired for some reason. So I swiped up to respond and typed something close to, I want to be in a podcast. A few hours passed and I got a message from a different friend that said,
Yo, you think about making a podcast?
I responded with, not really. I just thought it'd be a cool idea if I was on a podcast at least once in my life. From there, the idea kind of buried itself in the back of my mind and started making plans with my subconscious. I only say that because when I left for college a few months later, I started listening to more podcasts and became more inspired. But I still didn't think I could host my own podcast because I wasn't entertaining enough or I wasn't an expert in anything. Fast forward to the second semester of my first year in college, and one of my homeboys typed in the group chat, "Y'all want to make a podcast?" For some reason, reading those words caused an explosion of ideas in my brain because I suddenly knew exactly what we should talk about and who our audience was. Every question I had, I found a way to answer or address it. My second semester of college ended, and we already had a business model, multiple logos, and music. All we needed to do was record our episodes and edit them to release in summer 2021. We recorded about 3 episodes before we stopped due to our conflicting schedules. I've never been so excited to do something just to have it fall through the cracks because of life. But I was encouraged by my mom to make my own because I knew for sure that I wanted to be in a podcast by then. So why should I wait for somebody to invite me on theirs? She said something along the lines of, "If you really want to be in a podcast, you will find a way to be on one." So around late June, early July, I had started working on my podcast, and this is the current product so far. Kind of a long-winded story, but if my friend had not posed that question, "What do you want to do in your lifetime?" this podcast very possibly could not have been created. So for all of my friends listening, thank you. Because without you guys, there would be no Hawks Lounge. I also mentioned my mother earlier in my story and how she gave me that little push. The statement that she told me really worked wonders for me. If you really want to be in a podcast, you will find a way to be on one. I personally think that was fantastic advice for one main reason. I can only tell you why it was good advice for me, but I understand that it doesn't pertain to everyone for one reason or another. If it helps you, then I'd be very thankful. The main reason why it helped me was that it silenced any doubt I had. As I mentioned in the story, I thought I wasn't entertaining enough, which would lead people to not stick around and listen. But I had to become comfortable knowing that when I start, I'm not going to be entertaining, and that's okay. Because since I seemed really passionate about podcasting, I'd find a way to become entertaining, or at least find a way to compensate for not being as entertaining as other podcast hosts. Which, if you look at that, we come back full circle to what we talked about in the last episode. Comparing yourself and what you have to others. Like I said before, and I'll say it again, if you constantly compare yourself to others, you're robbing yourself of the joy and peace of mind that comes from knowing that you are you. But I digress. Let's get back to the main point. If you are able and willing to do something, you can find a way to make it work despite the doubts and despite the odds. The only person that will stop you is you. Thank you for listening to this episode. I hope that you were able to learn something or reinforce a previous understanding of gratitude. Again, thank you for listening. you don't have to listen, but the fact that you took time out of your day to listen means the world to me. To all my friends and family, thank you for the support. For all the listeners, thank you for listening. Make sure to tell someone that you appreciate them this week. And with all that being said, I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Until then, have a happy Thanksgiving.